Hi, I'm Stuart. Welcome to my YouTube channel, or welcome back if you've watched a previous video. In both cases, thanks for viewing my video. In this video I'm going to give my reading wrap-up for the week of November 24 through November 30. And this week I completed one book, so I'm going to give a review of that book. I read parts of 3 other books, so I'll talk briefly about those books. I completed 3 Wobbles, so I will talk about those Wobbles and show those Wobbles. And talk a little bit about some other things going on in my life. The book I completed this week is Fright Club by Ronald Malfi. This is the November book for Fright Club, a book club created and moderated by Cliff at Cliff's Dark Gems and Kritz at Kritz_reads. When the book starts, David Arlen and his daughter Ellie are driving somewhere, and it becomes apparent very quickly that they're on the run from something. The story goes back in time 19 months ago, goes to current times, and goes back little later times. It goes back and forth that way. It becomes apparent very early that there's a very deadly virus that is overtaking the world, and that the authorities really want David's daughter Ellie. The story goes from there. I found the story quite thrilling. The gradual reveals of what happened to lead up to current times. I like the way they did it. I like gradual reveals. I don't like things that just boom, you're there. So I really like that. I would say that the novel, although the author I believe is mainly a horror author, can't say that for sure though. This is the first of his works I've read. But to me the book is much more a kind of, I don't know, pre-dystopian, pre-apocalyptic novel along those lines. And I like those, so that's a good thing. I do like that. But I don't think it's really that much of a horror novel to me, at least what I consider a horror novel. There are multiple deaths in this book. There are several times where people unalive themselves quite graphically. There is grieving. There is detailed descriptions of injuries. I did have one issue with the book that I'm going to, this is kind of a spoiler, so I will put the little spoiler text at the bottom of the video when I edit it, so that you'll know that it's a spoiler in case you don't want to read a spoiler. But the one issue I have with the book is that I thought the ending begged a sequel, and there's no indication of a sequel in the book. So that's my only reservation with it. I really thought the ending of the book begged a sequel. And maybe there is one. Maybe it's still something that's planned. I don't know. It's just that there was no indication in the afterwards of the book that there was a sequel to this book. So that's my only reservation of this book. Now that's the end of the spoiler. As I said, this is a very thrilling book, and I like the way it went back and forth in time. I recommend this book to anyone who wants a very thrilling read. Just go into it. I think it's more kind of pre-apocalyptic, pre-dystopian than horror. At least what I consider horror. But a really great book. I haven't rated this book on Storygraph yet, but it's probably going to be a 4.5. My only reservation is that I wasn't crazy about the ending. But others may differ in that. So that's the only reason it didn't get a 5. It's a very thrilling read. Now I'm going to talk briefly about the 3 books I read part of. I continue to read The Complete Tales of H.P. Lovecraft by H.P. Lovecraft. There's really not a lot I can say because it's a collection of short stories, except that, as I said I think in my last video, it's getting to the point of what I really like about Lovecraft. There's just these men who kind of delve into knowledge that they should leave well enough alone. It ends up costing them dearly, whether it's their lives or their sanity. So it is getting to the part what I really like about Lovecraft. But it's really hard with a collection of short stories because anything is kind of a spoiler. The next book I read part of is The Will of the Many by James Islington. Not too far in this book. This is the November read for Booked and Busy, moderated by Jaime, at Jaime Falk on here. I just joined the club about halfway through the month, and I didn't expect I was going to be able to read this book. And once I noticed it's 600 pages or so, I knew I wouldn't, but I did want to give it a start. So it is interesting so far. There's kind of like it's like a pyramid, like a pyramid scheme, except that at the bottom, people give what they call their will, and I'm not wholly sure what that totally entails, but so far it seems like one of the things they're giving is their energy. And that goes up and up and up to the top. There's 8 levels. Yeah, it's quite interesting so far, and it's actually book one of a series. So again, I didn't remotely make the end of November, which is today actually as I record this, November 30. But this is a highly lauded book, and I can see why so far. And the final book that I read part of this week is 11/22/63 by Stephen King. Haven't read too much of this book. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to return it to Libby. But I'm enjoying what I read so far. I can't even really say anything because I really read at the beginning, but I am kind of returning to Stephen King lately, so I'm just gonna request a second hold, and there's a couple people waiting for it, so it might take a little while. Next, I'm just going to talk about the 2 books that I know I'm going to read in December. The first one is The Christmas Tree Farm by Laurie Gilmore. That is the December read for Booked and Busy, moderated by Jaime, at Jaime Falk on here. And the second is A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. That is the December book selection for I'm with the Band, moderated by MJ. Reading This Life at M-J on here. So those are the only 2 books that I know I'm going to be reading in December. Well, I'm going to continue reading The Will of the Many too, but so that's a 3rd book, I guess. I am kind of realizing that I'm not really going to take part in too many readathons in 2025. Between these 2 book clubs I mentioned and Fright Club, assuming that's going to go on, and Tia Chu's book club, moderated by Tia Chu. There hasn't been a December selection for that book yet, but if I do take part in the 4 book clubs, that's 4 books a month, and to tie myself down on other stuff, I'm just not going to do. It didn't really go that well for me either, besides the Spooky Scary Skeleton Halloween Readathon by Nicole. That one went well, and that one I assume if Nicole does do it, I will do that again next year because I quite enjoyed that. It's Nicole at Nicole's Bookish Nook, I should say. But the other stuff I didn't really do all that well, and I don't really like to be tied down too much. And with up to 4 book clubs, that's kind of the most that I want to commit to reading, besides stuff that I just emotional mood reading do. Next, I just want to talk about the Wobbles I completed this week. The first is the Tiny Witch's Hat. I had started working on that before the last video, so I talked about that a little bit here. The second is the Tiny Candy Corn. And the third is the Tiny Witch's Cauldron. On this one I just have to add a couple of handles, but it should be done by the end of the day, so I'll just add a photo of that in the video so you can see the completed Tiny Witch's Cauldron. Other than that, I walked a couple times at the local mall. I did go to the mall on Good Friday, but the mall isn't doing particularly well, so there wasn't really all that many people even on Good Friday. And sad to me, my favorite store, FYE, is now closing, so that was kind of sad to see. I did go in there Friday, possibly for the last time, and bought a couple of things, but that was kind of sad to see. I did take a video scanning around the food court. There's been times in the food court when I'm like the only one eating, like, 1:30, around then for, 5, 10, 15 minutes, which is kind of weird. There's only one place open in it. I'd show the video, but there's some music in it. I'm afraid I get copyright violated. There's probably a way I can filter it out, but that's something I still have to learn. Besides that, I really do like the run up to Christmas. I quite enjoy it. Seeing decorations on people's lawns, just watching Christmas specials such as The Grinch, Santa Claus is Coming to Town, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and similar shows like that. Frosty the Snowman, I really enjoy that, the run up to Christmas. For my Halloween, I stayed at home. I did get invited to a Thanksgiving meal at a common friend of my sister and myself, but I don't like groups more than like at most 3 or 4 people, so I passed. My friend cooked extra in his turkey dinner, so he brought some over to me. So I did have a nice traditional Thanksgiving meal. Turkey, dressing, cranberry sauce, potatoes, corn, gravy, a piece of cheesecake. So that was a nice meal. I should say I don't mind spending time by myself. I'm quite comfortable doing so. But for me, it was a good Thanksgiving. My sister and myself are going to probably the end of next week go out and have a Thanksgiving meal. We don't mind doing something, not quite on the exact date. So that's something we're going to do. Another thing I forgot to mention is recently, the past week or two, I started playing video games again. I've been playing this game called Monster Heist Ultimate Secrets. It's a kid's game, but I do find that there's a fair amount of challenge to it. I am enjoying it. I did complete the main quest. I have to try to learn. I know people are able, probably maybe some connection to the camera, they're able to show video games, show themselves playing them, so maybe sometime I'll look into that. Not that I'm going to do that a long time like sometimes people do, but a live or something like that, but I don't really know how to do it, so. But that I've been playing that game, and I got some other games lined up after that. I'd be interested in knowing how your reading week went, any books you particularly enjoyed, you might recommend. Please reply in the comments if you'd like to let me know. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, please subscribe, please hit the bell to get notified when I upload future videos. I hope you have a wonderful reading week and a wonderful week in general.